Hi, welcome to the Bruce Channel. I'm Bruce, and this is a painting by Vincent van Gogh. Yeah, I've been away for a bit, and as a result, the number of topics that I had to consider for this show was large. I even thought that our graphics guru, the Wizard, might need overtime. It's going to take so long creating just new page turns if I didn't find a way to do some trimming. Important things. The Republicans did have their debates. By the way, I never said all Republican candidates were clowns, but they are all still crossing swords, and in some cases crossing lines. It's important and it's topical. But wait, there's more. Former President Jimmy Carter is in the news. I learned this week that not one, but two stories I've been thinking about researching and then possibly presenting were just recently done. Obviously not by me, by someone else. School is now back in session. There is a tropical system that as of right now appears to be headed right here. And not everything on this long list is important. There was some golf. I had a close encounter with a yellow jacket of an interesting kind. I read somewhere that Kelly Clarkson is totally pregnant. Now that caught my attention because, and I was going to point out that pregnancy is a binary state. Yes, no, on, off. You can't be partially or totally pregnant. You are or you aren't. Oh, and by the way, who is Kelly Clarkson? But all of that goes by the boards this week. Today will be a bit different. Do I look like a preacher? I'm not qualified to be a preacher. And I'm not going to preach. Instead, I'll offer some thoughts that I've had. And you can watch and listen and consider. You can watch and listen and summarily dismiss. Of course, you don't have to watch or listen. You can just click stop and click your way to Amazon and buy something, or Netflix and stream something. So if you are still with us, unless you've been in a coma for several days, you know, of course, of the unimaginable killings in Virginia midweek, where TV reporter Allison Parker and her videographer Adam Ward were shot and killed. Well, on a morning show live remote, their interviewee, Chamber of Commerce Director Vicki Gardner, was wounded. You know, I said unimaginable, but really, anymore, nothing is unimaginable. It should be unimaginable, but honestly, I think that word has become an anachronism. Dictionaries ought to label it as archaic, the same way they label bodkin and fi. So no, I'm not going to preach. But here are the few thoughts. I should maybe tell you first too that I heard the news, and like everyone I recoiled, but when I learned more detail I may actually have shuddered. See, I live in the southern part of North Carolina's Piedmont Triad. The Triad is comprised of Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point. But for years I lived in the northern part of the Piedmont Triad, and I worked in television. And because it was so close, occasionally we cover stories in Southern Virginia, known as Southside Virginia. Indeed, Miss Parker grew up in Southside, in Martinsville, which is right on the North Carolina-Virginia line. That's also the home of Martinsville Speedway, where NASCAR checks in twice a year, which obviously we covered. And the station for which the two murdered reporters worked was WDBJ, Channel 7 in Roanoke. Now, that's a bit farther north, maybe an hour and a half away, but WDBJ then and now is a CBS affiliate. And I actually don't remember if I really sent them an air check, if I only toyed with the idea, but I did toy with the idea at least of working there. You know, everything that I've done in broadcasting. In TV, I love doing the weather, and in both radio and TV, I love doing the morning show. So maybe it's not likely, but neither is it ridiculously far outside the laws of probability that given a different roll of the dice, I might have been hosting the morning show at WDBJ. And I've done interviews with various chambers of commerce officials. And I've been on early morning live remotes. So there's that. Oh, and then another smaller connection. Some years later, I played piano 6 nights a week at a fine restaurant in Danville, Virginia, also just across the state line. And over time, many of the patrons, they become familiar. You get to know them. You know their favorite songs. And for some, like clockwork, what night they'd come in. I recall, even these years later, one couple would come in every Friday, and I got to know them. I got to know the songs they like. Sometimes we talk. And I remember asking them why it was always Friday. It was never Saturday. Why always Friday? Turns out, I don't remember where they lived, but they told me they had a weekend home on Smith Mountain Lake. They would stop at the restaurant on their way there. The reason for the live remote Wednesday morning was that they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of Smith Mountain Lake Park. I think in the years since then, I've not once thought of Smith Mountain Lake. But that changed in a hurry Wednesday morning. Anyway, the shooter, as so often happened, shot himself and later died. And everyone is happy he's dead. He was apparently an embittered, belligerent man with a persecution complex. An embittered man whom we won't miss. Probably. Probably. Yeah, probably. Almost certainly. Except for what I previously said. The roll of the dice. Had the dice rolled differently, I might have been working at Channel 7. Had the dice rolled differently, I might have been Bruce Springsteen. And had they rolled differently, the man who did the shooting might have become the scientist who finds the cure for cancer. Or instead, a man riding on a train in France who helped stop a terrorist attack. Or instead becomes a member of the House of Representatives who would actually call out Monsanto. Or maybe something far less grandiose. Maybe something like what happened to me a month ago. I was in Atlanta. I had about an hour to kill and I stopped at a fast food place. I didn't want to buy nothing. I bought a cup of coffee. It was, I don't know, $1.10 maybe. I had some change in my car. Wished I'd brought it with me, but the hell with it. I was about to give the cashier, a young black man, $2 bills, but he looked at me and said, I got it. Reached in his pocket, dropped in a coin on my behalf. And I was genuinely thankful. He just smiled. As it happens, a bit later, as I was getting in my car and he was going on a break, he was walking across the lot, so I called him. I had change in my car. I gave him some quarters. I paid him back and gave him a tip, and this time he was genuinely grateful. And again he smiled. So what I'm not going to do now is tell you the shooter had a bad childhood. Reports indicate that he did, but it's not germane. John Hinckley, Ronald Reagan's would-be assassin, had, by all accounts, a great childhood. And he was, or is, mentally ill. I'm not a clinician, but can anyone doubt that Wednesday's shooter had some kind of mental illness? He himself described himself as a powder keg about to go off. Author Stephen King once said, I think we're all mentally ill. Those of us outside the asylums only hide a little better, and maybe not all that much better after all. If you think about it, he's probably right. Although I'd add that doesn't mean we're all crazy. But instead, that everything not measured in a binary state is, thus by definition, measured by degree. Henry David Thoreau wrote, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. It's a very short step from desperation to mental illness. Some years ago I read a book by a psychiatrist who claimed that many of the brain and or mind failings were caused by consistently high levels of the hormone cortisol. We produce cortisol in answer to stress or danger. We live in stressful times. We multitask, there's deadlines, we've got bills, how to pay for the new tires we need, desperation. All of these and plenty of other conditions increase cortisol production. Do I look like I'm really not going to preach, but it is nevertheless true that in the New Testament, that is the Christian Bible, Matthew quotes Jesus, do to others what you would have them do to you. It's become known as the Golden Rule. Predating Jesus, the Old Testament in Leviticus tells us, love your neighbor as yourself. And a quote of Muhammad, wish for your brother what you wish for yourself. There are equivalent directives in every known religion. But you don't need religion to see the obvious value. Axiomatic. In secular ethics, one should treat others as one would like others to treat oneself. You believe in the Ten Commandments? Don't lie, don't steal, don't kill. Yeah, they're all fine, but really we do not need them. One should treat others as one would like others to treat oneself. If everyone just did that, there'd be no stealing, no name calling, no bullying, no raping, no keying the side of your car or finding the top of your convertible slashed for no reason, and certainly no shooting people. My overriding thought then is really to truncate the golden rule: be nice to people. Not because of religion, because it's pragmatic. Not that it's always easy. Sometimes companies do things that are fraudulent, or at the very least take advantage of the public, and we get angry, and when angry, it's difficult to be nice. Sometimes people do things that make you mad. But if they were nice in the first place, maybe you wouldn't get mad. Or maybe if someone had been nice to them earlier, they'd be nice and not do the thing that makes you mad. Chicken? Egg? Egg? Chicken? But sometimes it is easy. Say I'm at a store, line checking out, I got 4, maybe 5 things. The guy behind me only has 1. I don't have much, so I let him in, I don't let him in. I don't have much, so it's no big deal either way. But if I do, maybe it turns his day around. And so then maybe after work he doesn't stop at the bar and have 1 or 2 too many, and thus doesn't kill someone while driving drunk. That someone could be me, or you. It's pragmatic. Would it always work? No. No. In 1966, Charles Whitman climbed to the clock tower at the University of Texas in Austin. He started firing a rifle. He was loaded with guns, but he started firing, sniping at people. He killed 16. His autopsy later revealed a brain tumor the size of a pecan. Now, it was never conclusively determined that the tumor made him wig out. But maybe. Now, if it were because of a brain tumor, I seriously doubt if being nice would have changed anything. To conjoin 2 previous quotes, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. Some of them hide it a little bit better. You never know what load someone is carrying or what terror resides within. It's now a few weeks more than 1 year since Robin Williams died. I miss him. You too, likely. He gave us all so much pleasure. And not only the laughs, he somehow understood, and in his acting was so able to convey the quiet desperation of which Thoreau wrote. Robin Williams. A friend of mine is wont from time to time to arrange words with a striking clarity. A few days after Robin Williams died, my friend wrote, "The thing about clinical depression is it can make a guy like Robin Williams not want to be Robin Williams. So I opened today with this painting by Van Gogh. Van Gogh, as you probably know, had untold terrors residing within his own soul. This painting is called At Eternity's Gate, and it well depicts deep sorrow. So we have this old man, he's here shown in his room by the fire. But by day, maybe he goes out into town. He smiles at the shop clerks, tells dirty jokes to the barman, gives pennies to the children so they can go buy candies. And at night he goes home again and becomes his real self. Every person you encounter, friend, stranger, and all in between, regardless of what you see, you do not know what they're carrying inside. So, no preaching, just an observation, a belief that being nice would sometimes, even if not quantifiably, would sometimes change an outcome in good ways, even if those ways are never known. I do hope your upcoming week is the best one you've ever had.